Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat. There's over 100,000 titles to choose from, and they work on your iPhone, your Android, your Kindle, or your MP3 player.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
Good day. You look reasonably sane. What are you doing in the catacombs? Oh, I know what it is. You've come for the trinkets, haven't you? Whatever it is. This place is treacherous. Do watch your step.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And I'm Will Owens.
And you are listening to Bonfireside Chat, an undead favorite.
And this week we are talking about the Catacombs and the Tomb of the Giants. And as you heard, we are joined by Will Owens. Will, tell us about yourself. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Not much to say about myself. Just a longtime fan, listen to all your shows, watch out for fireballs, and this one, and those damn Ross kids, and I'm just a big fan and love what you guys do, so it's a pleasure to be on.
Oh, you sell yourself short. There's also Backlog Killer.
Well, I didn't want to plug myself too early.
No, this is the prescribed plug section,
Yeah.
so
you
not.
can do it at the
Alright.
beginning and end.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Tell us what you do on Backlog Killer.
Well, basically, I just bought too many games on Steam and GOG, and I couldn't figure out a way to play them in order because I kept starting one and stopping, so I decided to start a blog sort of based on some others I'd read, but it keeps me on track, and I just like playing old games and writing more how they relate to my life, or, you know, in just a grander sense than just this is a game, you know, because some of them can mean more than just a game, although some of them don't.
Yeah, it's not a review. Like the thing that where me and Cole both kind of were introduced to was when we did around this time last year when we did Torment, or maybe a little bit earlier in the year, but we did Torment, and you said you were going to play along, and you did it as the kind of kickoff for the blog, and both Cole and I liked what you were doing there, and liked your approach, your very like experiential approach. It's not a review. It's not necessarily about whether the game is good or bad, but it's, about your relationship to it and how it relates to other things. And I think that both, that spoke to Cole and I. So,
Yeah.
We were real interested in having you on the show, and we knew you were a Dark Souls fan,
Yep.
going into it. So Dark and Demons.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yeah, I started with Demon Souls, so when I got to Dark Souls, I was really excited.
yeah.
So I'm excited about the show.
Yeah. Great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We're happy to have you.
Yeah.
So on the last episode, we ventured through the demon ruins and lost Izalith in order to kill the witch and her daughters, and it granted us the third of the 4 Lord Souls. And now we go back nearly to the beginning of the game in order to get revenge on the skeletons in the catacombs and the graveyard.
It's nearly a week, like 2 weeks late, but I think it's kind of funny that there's the whole burn the witch thing, and then the witch is burning, and then in order to kill her, you have to put the fire out. Literally of no consequence. I just wanted to make that observation.
When you said 2 weeks late, for some reason I thought you were talking about something in real life that
No,
was going on
no.
that we didn't bring up, and I was like,
oh shit!
did we do a new witch trial? Shit. What's going on? I should watch the news.
My car payment.
Like what?
So I
burn the witch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was racking my brain for news references, and I was coming up empty.
Nope.
Yeah.
No. we release the show every 2 weeks. You see.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. We record them in time is timey-wimey the way we record as well. So
This is true.
that might have been what confused me as well, as you were
yeah.
speaking from release date.
We also recorded 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
So.
I guess that's probably true.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I apologize for that digression. Anyway.
Well, I take solace that Will was also confused.
Okay. Cool.
And so listeners, you weigh in. Was that confusing, or did that totally make sense?
I was just going to wait that one out.
Yeah.
Now it's staying in. But yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. So now is the time that we go through, if you had gone the wrong way right out of the gate, Firelink, you would head through this graveyard. Before we go in there, though, we kept putting it off every time we ran into her, and specifically in the first episode with Firelink. But let's talk a little bit about Petrus and Rhea in there, because this is really this area is really kind of their story. Mm-hmm. You know, as far as the kind of like the real narrative kind of thematic stuff that goes on here.
Right.
They're really heavily tied to it.
Yeah. It's really their story and almost nothing else.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, Petrus is the dude with the lame haircut. He is one of the two people in Firelink who you see right out the gate. So both people who are there are kind of dicks. And he's the guy who is stashing away some. What are those? The cracked red eye orbs down there?
Yes.
Yeah. So and
some Lloyd talisman, some kind of undead hunting gear.
Yeah.
You know, is what you can kind of take from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you, shortly after you get there, Rhea shows up with her, and you know that she is of Thorlin. That is her house name. Mm-hmm. She's with the Way of White. She has two kind of burly bodyguards.
Nico and Vince.
Yep, Nico and Vince. Hey!
Hey, it's
Nico and Vince.
Get
Rhea,
over here.
Petrus, Nico and Vince.
Hey!
Hey! I'm undead over here. It's like, who named these guys? They're the only people named like that in the whole game. It'd be like Solaire, Lautrec, and Ron. You know, like it makes no sense. Hey.
Well, I think my character was named Rob, so there's that.
Rob the undead.
Yeah.
I chose a thief, so anytime I'm a thief in a game.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Wow, well, thank you.
In Final Fantasy 1, that was a I like naming Final Fantasy 1 characters after verbs. Yeah. So you end up having like kick, take, cast, and heal. Just because I'm not going to try to impose any kind of character onto those things. So she's there with her bodyguards, and she pretty much says she's on a mission. I think when you fight, I think the trigger is the Capra Demon, and they head off to the Catacombs.
Right. And there's like a little bit of a timer on that too. So Petrus is like, oh, she left. And then after a while, after you've gone through a couple more areas, Petrus is all like saying, yeah, my fair lady, where has she gone? Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Not really doing anything about it, but just saying like, have you seen her?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a couple of different clues that she's lying. Like you can talk to Lautrec and he will give you kind of hints.
Yeah.
And it's based on your soul level, how much it cost. But the big thing he tells you is that Petrus abandoned her down in the catacombs, and he makes a creepy line. He says something about
Maiden Thoroland and her followers recently arrived in this land, but she became stranded deep below the catacombs. Her followers either fled or were reduced to hollows, leaving Maiden Thoroland all alone. Not a bad tip, huh? A Nubar cleric would be replete with humanity.
And it's real creepy and kind of sexually predatory sounding.
There's a lot of unsettling damsel stuff in her.
Yeah. Rhea is really, an innocent victim.
Yeah.
In a game world with almost none of that.
Right.
She seems she's in over her head. When she has no idea what she's doing. It seems like.
Yeah.
She knows what she's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But she's just kind of there.
Do we know what her mission is? I mean, like we know that she went undead, and that is unbefitting a maiden or a lady or blah blah blah. And is she here doing penance? Like what's the? I've never gotten any conclusion on that, because when you first see her, she doesn't want to talk to you.
She's so the undead and the Way of White are sent on a pilgrimage, and I think that it is to get the Rite of Kindling.
Okay.
Is the idea, and that's so I think that's supported in game in text items, and then the kind of conjecture that lore videos tend to make is that the church is actually sending them there just to kind of get rid of them.
Okay.
Because they're a little bit of an embarrassment, and like eternal life does not fit in with any kind of theology.
Right.
And that Petrus is actually part of what he's doing is killing, clerics who are sent on this mission.
Oh, right. So this is. a convenient way to dispose of them.
And that makes a sense. So we know, Petrus can induct you into the way of white. We know that they work for the same covenant. Mm-hmm. So they are part of the same organization, and he is actively, like, if he tries to kill her through inaction in the catacombs, if he's unable to do it, he'll directly kill her later.
Right.
So that makes, as much sense to me as anything.
Right.
So I think that is the idea, is that they're trying to go down there and get the rite of kindling, which is so easy to get. But how come no one's done it?
Yeah. That's
just
true.
Attack, idiots.
Just attack.
But we're gonna go down and find her in the Tomb of the Giants. But just because we've been putting on, she's the last major NPC in the game that we've been kind of putting off talking about it all.
Yeah.
So, I guess we haven't talked very much about Dusk, but we'll get into that next episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, one of my big weaknesses is I always mess up or somehow fuck up one of the the NPC quest lines. I don't think I've completed any of them, actually, when I think about it. Maybe Laurentius, I finished his, but the rest, and Lautrec, but the rest I always do something wrong, and Siegmeyer's is tough, and hers, I just don't ever go back to the parish. And
it's so tricky, like the triggers, like the flags that you have to put up in order to make that happen. Like, like maybe Siegmeyer's is a little bit more complicated than Rhea's, but I wouldn't blame anybody for not seeing this.
Yeah, well, there's no reason to go back to the parish, I don't think. Once you can warp, who cares?
Right. And there's one line of dialogue. If you talk to the crestfallen warrior enough, he'll tell you that she went there.
He's always dead. I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's if you didn't talk him into talking about somebody doing something about it, and he doesn't end up dead. So he has to be alive, and then you have to go to her immediately, and you have to kill, and then after you talk to her, you have to kill Petrus immediately.
Right.
Or she'll die. Like, completing her storyline to make her go hollow is really, is pretty much as complicated as Siegmeyer's thing. They're kind of less moving parts, and it's not as diverse geographically, but it is, I feel like it's equally complicated.
Right.
Well, good. I don't feel so bad.
Definitely don't feel bad. Saving Solaire is difficult too.
Yeah.
Figuring that out as well. But we talked about that in the last one.
Yeah, I'm not even going to touch that one.
Yeah. This is on the playthrough I'm doing for the Let's Play. I saved Rhea, and I actually went down and did it early before you actually go here, which was hard. And but you can watch videos about that if you'd like. But this is the only time I've managed to complete her quest line successfully. So
when you say early, do you just mean like right after getting the Lord vessel, or what?
Well, before that, like I went down to Tomb of the Giants before I did Sense Fortress.
Oh, wow. You know what? I forgot where the Orange Gate was.
Oh yeah. It's further down. It's kind of down by where you run into Leroy.
Okay.
So. So you go through the graveyard, which previously tore you up, and hopefully by the time you go here, you're going to be you'll be able to succeed at it. Even though there's a lot of evidence that this is actually kind of an alternate beginning area,
right?
As opposed to something you're supposed to do at the end of the game.
Yeah, and this is a fruitful place to go and like do suicide runs to get helpful items, specifically this Vi Hunter or the Wing Spear, both of which are pretty useful weapons for different and popular play styles. But yeah, this is especially with the Rite of Kindling being the ultimate reward for getting through the catacombs, aside from progression. Like if you do that early and it is surmountable, then that can make the rest of the game a little bit easier for you, or significantly easier, depending on how much you lean on your Estus, right?
Yep.
Right.
So that's one big reason. Like Pinwheel's music is like track 6 on the CD. Like it happens really early in the sequence of it, and then just Pinwheel himself. So everyone ends up going here kind of later, but you don't have to. Right. Is kind of my point. And because of that, it ends up kind of being a fairly easy area combat wise. But really challenging kind of navigation-wise.
Right.
Well,
but
go ahead. I had a question. When I came back, do the skeletons usually regenerate after you beat the ones in the graveyard?
Do the ones in the graveyard, or do they respawn, do you mean?
Yes. Do they come back together like the ones
Oh no, they're not tied to a necromancer.
Oh, see, I thought because I was playing it again, a few weeks ago, and it wasn't happening. I thought, what's going on here? But I guess they're just too hard to beat in the first place, and I never even put one down.
Yeah,
I think it can seem like it, especially if you land, a sweet spot hit or a critical hit, and they break apart, and then you think like, okay, cool, he's done. Then they get back up without having, actually taken down their health bar. I think that's what's happening there because there's you're not introduced to the necromancers just yet.
Okay. Their like prostate position is crumbled.
Yeah.
Into when they're prone, their individual bones.
Right.
They got a case of prone bone going on.
Prone. Jeez.
I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, though. Talk to us a little bit about the lore.
Yeah. So obviously this is the place where they bury their dead or store them. I suppose they're not putting actual dirt on top of them, but that's semantics. And this is kind of the mouth of Nito's kingdom, right? So, he is the god of death in this world, the first of the dead. And what you see here are people who are either serving him or people who are serving this other necromancer who is stated in some item descriptions to be sapping away Nito's power. This is Pinwheel, obviously. So we don't know who those necromancers are or where they fit in. But there's not an awful lot of lore in this particular part of the game unless there's something that I'm really, really missing.
Yeah, I don't think that there is. Like, I think that really the story is just, Nito is kind of a passive god. Mm-hmm. Like after all the business in the intro cutscene went down, he went to sleep in his coffin.
Right.
And, is kind of like the lord over death, like just kind of a death god in any kind of mythology. Mm-hmm. And because he is so passive, like Pinwheel is able to start sapping his power and start kind of like being an active agent. Like I think those necromancers are probably servants of Pinwheel. Right. That you run into in the catacombs, and that the animate skeletons that are in the catacombs, like I don't even know if they would be there if Nito had his druthers.
Right.
Like that could be all of the kind of hostile forces down there. Like I could see very easily just being a Pinwheel construction, like him guarding his kind of laboratory.
Yeah,
while he gains power,
and that's that's somewhat supported by the Pinwheel servants that are guarding Nito himself. So, like, why, when you kill Nito, all of the other skeletons don't just go away? Not Nito. Why, when you kill Pinwheel, those guys don't just go away? Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
He has corrupted this place in a different way.
Yeah, and really the only other thing that kind of talks about him, even you can get the effigy shield a little bit later that talks about a group of necromancers plotting to take down the gods. And so there's so little in the way of like item descriptions or anything that you can find. So this episode will be a little bit light on that stuff,
right?
Even though that's kind of our bread and butter.
Yeah, I was kind of looking for some of that stuff when I was playing through, and I mean, the most I can find is, what you guys have said, and they bury their dead here. What else is there?
Well, they bury some of them, and then you get down to the bottom of the catacombs where they're just lazy and they're just in piles.
Yeah.
Like, there's huge just piles of skeletons and stuff here. They bury some of their dead.
Yeah.
Here.
The rest they just throw into the bone zone.
Yeah, they're in the prone bone zone.
Yeah. But like...
My doctor prescribed me prone bone zone.
If this area lasts for more than 4 hours.
If this podcast lasts for more than 4 hours, stop taking prone bone zone.
But all of this is kind of to say that this out of like most of the areas, aside from maybe Sens, feels the most like a video game level to me.
I think so.
It feels like a dungeon in a video game where you are walking around in tunnels, killing skeletons with sweet swords, and tripping switches in order to open up bridges. It's not a bad thing. I like it. I like the way it looks, and I like the way it feels, and it does a lot of awesome, neat stuff. But like that is a thing about it, not necessarily a shortcoming, like I almost said.
Yeah, I would agree, and especially about the Catacombs. I think that the Tomb of the Giants has a little bit more going on.
Yeah, agreed.
To it. The Catacombs is definitely like a Dungeons and Dragons style dungeon.
Yeah.
Similar to Sen's Fortress.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did notice. There's the statues in the catacombs. They resemble the necromancers.
Yeah, the
Have you
spike
noticed
statue?
that?
Yeah, spiky ones, yeah.
So
sometimes they have the mask of the mother on.
Right. So I don't know if that's, who that's related to, but I noticed that, which I missed, the first time through.
They look old too, so they're not recent construction.
Exactly.
That's used as kind of evidence in a lot of the internet theorizing about Pinwheel being this person who's trying to resurrect his family is kind of the leading theory, but there's nothing else for it. There's really nothing to connect those dots.
Yeah.
So I ultimately kind of rejecting that. And I don't know what if you look at the mask, it just says that they belong to Pinwheel. They're one of the three masks of the Necromancer Pinwheel, and that's all we get.
Like the way that I look at it, just he has 3 heads, so he needs 3 masks, and all of these servants have 3 heads, 3 masks, and because they are a cult, and most cults consider themselves or structure themselves to be families, the mother, the father, and the child. Just makes sense that would be an expression of rank or something like that. That there's nothing to base that around. I don't see him trying to resurrect his family. Maybe he lost his family and that's why he did the thing that he did. But then we're getting into just kind of general literature motivations.
Yeah, then you're just throwing darts out in the dark.
Yeah,
at that part, Yeah. So the big kind of gameplay thing here, the big kind of gameplay thing is that these guys resurrect,
right,
as we mentioned. Unless you kill them with a divine weapon.
Yeah.
Or unless you kill their necromancer. And I think that the idea was that whole divine weapon, instead of that being the way that 90% of the people play this, I think that was supposed to be kind of an Easter egg. Because this level has a real spiritual predecessor, in the 4-2 in Demon Souls.
Yeah,
yes.
Shrine.
Yeah, with Shrine of Storms, which is this kind of mad dash to get to the load-bearing enemy and kill him while these other enemies continuously respawn. And I've tried to play this level like that, coming here early without a divine weapon, and it's really fun and different. It just gets frustrating and I die,
Yeah.
Wow. That's the only way I've ever played it.
You've never gone through here with a divine weapon?
I've never even made a divine weapon.
Huh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to us about what do you do differently? Because I'm pretty sure that both me and Kole kind of end up going through here with something divine, restore a straight sword or something else.
Well, I guess you were talking about earlier the Demon Souls, early in incarnation. I think I pretty much approached it like that, and I said, well, there's no way to deal with this other than that. So the first time I played, I just ran through and got him, but the last one was a kind of a thief character, so I had that Black Bow of Ferris, and that makes things extremely easy. And but yeah, it's pretty much just kind of a mad dash. But by that time, I was having no trouble with the skeletons. Thank God.
Yeah,
because those things, I don't know what it is since when I was a kid. Anything that I can't put down forever in a video game just raises anxiety in me.
Yeah, no, it's the mask. So, it's the Super Mario 2 mask, right?
Well, that, and I was going to say the Mario 3, those bone, the bone.
Oh, the dry bones, yeah.
Yeah,
the dry bones.
Yeah,
and,
or the sun.
Yeah, the
Mario
sun.
Yeah, I just have a real bad time with anything undead, like Baldur's Gate. You go down and there's, vampires and stuff, and they drain you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's undead in any video game, I leave it to last because I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Well, it plays into something I talk about a lot on Watch Out for Fireballs, and that any game where you can do stealth, my instinct is to kill everyone in the building so I can explore it. And this game, which I take, you have to be so considered at, being kind of harried by something that's coming back to life is kind of contrary to my play style.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush through it. I want to I want to look for items and look for hidden passages, especially in an area so winding and confusing as this is.
Yeah. You play you play Dark Souls like you're evacuating a building or like you're overseeing an evacuation. You check and make sure that every room is clear of anything before you move on to the next one. Yeah, well, not
not in this case, but in other cases, it's because enemies aren't spawning randomly because they're not traversing the level on their own, on patrol routes. Mm-hmm. Since for the most part they're stationary.
Yeah.
Once you clear a room, the room is cleared, and you look at stuff on the walls and you make dumb lore suppositions.
Yeah.
As
you do.
Yeah, as you do. So and I still go through and kill the necromancers for the most part, even though I have the divine weapon. I don't necessarily need to.
Yeah.
Partly because there's something really, bringing into Will or tying into Will's point. There's something really relaxing in Dark Souls about killing any enemy that doesn't respawn.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything I can kill and be like, okay, now I don't have to deal with this again.
Yeah.
It's really great.
I like them. I like their design. They look kind of like monks, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're waving around those skull lanterns, which are horrifying.
Yeah,
and,
that's beard hair.
Yeah,
that they're holding up high.
yeah. Yep. And they're shooting fireballs at you. So
yeah.
Yep. But yeah, they're definitely like this is an area that is patched with many bosses, right?
Oh, with the necromancers.
Yeah. I suppose that's what I mean. Just like the encounters are less atomic than they are in different areas. You have to look at a string of rooms around a necromancer as like one big thing, as opposed to trying to kite things out. When I was hastily writing the thesis, for this, it's just like hurry up and get surrounded. The circuitous nature of this level and the way it kind of doubles back, and also the fact that you are running and possibly ignoring enemies that you can't kill, so you can take out those necromancers, just means that you're varying the pace that you otherwise would have played at, and you're almost ensuring that you're going to be surrounded by these enemies that can attack very fast and very hard.
Yeah, and there are tons of them.
Yeah.
So it's not there are so many just enemies that you're dealing with here. Mm-hmm. It's about as dense as any area in the game.
Right.
Save maybe Blighttown.
Right.
Which we talked about, just exactly how many Dreglings there are running around there. Mm-hmm. This area is full of skeletons.
Yeah.
Like it is the skella rich. So when you talk about not having discrete encounters, it's true because by the time you get to the last skeleton or necromancer and whatever you would consider that one kind of discrete set piece, you're probably overlapping with the next one and have aggro the next set of skeletons or the next necromancer, shooting you across the way. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as opposed to most of Dark Souls, which is kind of like, here's a room, here are your challenges, consider how you'll face them.
Yeah. So I've discovered something that could possibly ruin this podcast. Just a quick Google for skeleton jokes.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Do you usually Google for the jokes that you use in the podcast?
No. I was trying to think you have to go through this with what I was about to say was you have to go through this with surgical precision, almost like a doctor with his scapula. But I couldn't make scapula sound like scalpel, so I dropped it. But I was like, oh, maybe there's this.
Maybe we can workshop it a little bit. I can see it working.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why not to put this on hold. Please continue, Paul.
What kind of art? What type of art do skeletons like?
What kind of art do skeletons like?
I don't know.
Do you know it?
I'll let Kole have his fun.
Sculptures.
Sculpture. Oh. Is that what you thought it was, Will?
That's exactly what I thought it was.
I was thinking of the Mona Lisa. Was I was going to go with.
Mona Lisa. Oh man! So I'm going to X that and also put that in ad blocker so I do not pull it up again. There we go.
Thank you.
Gary,
moving on.
Gary, just a little inside baseball. I got it because I already had the the Bone Jokes page up, and I was scanning for material to use.
Will, are you the webmaster of bonejokes.net?
Skeleton.bone.
Slash dot bones
dot bones / rib.
Yeah. Well, let's say you're looking specifically for rib ticklers about ribs. You found the place. You're home on the web for jokes about ribs.
Yeah. I got check out my thigh bone slappers web ring and you can, see what pops up.
It's perfect
see what contuses.
Oh boy, we gotta evacuate. We gotta have a relaxed evacuation.
It's perfect for both males and females. So I apologize. I knew it was going to be dropping a bomb in the middle of this, but I love skeletons so goddamn much.
Yeah, me too. It's one of my favorite things. A Target the day after Halloween is a good time, man.
Yeah.
Like, go there and buy some Skella branded stuff and have yourself a champagne jam.
Go home and watch some Oingo Boingo videos.
I'm getting some good insight into your life, Gary.
Yeah, it's all skeletons.
All skeletons all the time.
Yeah.
You pour in some Cristal for a paper skeleton in the chair next to you.
Yeah, and then I press a button and it sings "Who Can It Be Now." We get through this area and you're just kind of going through rooms, kind of doubling back and forth on yourself, and you get to the first bridge that has spikes, and you push a lever and flip the spikes over, and you think, okay, cool, I can do this. You continue a little while, and then if you came here before Rhea disappeared, you run into Patches here.
Yeah. I didn't know this until today.
Because nobody goes here first. But again,
Right.
It's just one of those things. It's like, this is designed to do this around Darkroot, and it'll be a good fun time. And Patches the hyena, also from Demon Souls.
Trusty Patches.
Patches.
Sony owns Patches the hyena.
Trusty Patches will fuck you over by flipping the bridge.
Yeah.
On you.
Yes, Patches, kind of a jerk.
Yeah, Patches is a real dickhead in both areas of this, and inspires like just countless PvP like things. There's tons of bridge flipping going on in PvP kind of troll videos.
Yeah, before I knew that Patches did that actual thing, I thought that this was like people taking up the Patches creed and ethos and going out and doing their own thing. I didn't know that they were just emulating what Patches did.
They're specifically doing what Patches does.
Right.
Doing as Patches do.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that whenever he does something like this to you, you go to him and he apologizes and will give you something. I can't remember what he gives you here because I think I've only gone down and met him here once.
I think he gives you some humanities.
I know he gives you humanities in Tomb of the Giants. He gives you a twin humanity.
Right.
But I don't know what it is here. It might be the same though.
Yeah. But I've got some theories about Patches, or at least like explanations. But we can do that once we get to the more prominent one where he kicks people off. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, you kind of move throughout this area, and there's not it's really, really easy to get lost, at least for me. Like, does anybody else share that navigational difficulty?
I do. I mean, I'm usually pretty good with this stuff, but there's so many places you can fall, and you don't know when you're supposed to fall, or you don't know when you're supposed to cross things. There's about 3 ways to get everywhere.
Yeah. My favorite is where they're obviously trying to get you, hey, roll off these broken stairs onto this onto this pathway. Nope, you fell, you're dead.
You can do it though.
You
can get there. You can everywhere that looks like you can do it is a shortcut. Like I can get down to Pinwheel in about 70 seconds.
Really?
Like you can make it down there. You just have to know where to do it. Like they didn't give you a shortcut to Tomb of the Giants from here, which is another reason why I think people don't do this area earlier on, because you'll have to go through it again anyway when you're going down to kill Nito. But you can, and there's a huge amount of because of the way that how circuitous this area is, and with all those shortcuts, this is a huge area for sequence breaking. So right out the gate, if you're good at running past enemies, you can run down here and get like a fire, what is that, scythe, like a fire scythe, great scythe within 4 minutes of starting the game.
Right.
If you want to. There's a lot of that kind of stuff you can do here. It's all optional though, and it's not all, I think it's made that way to make you be able to get through here quicker because you might be going through here twice.
Yeah. That makes sense. I also have trouble, I can never remember the way to get to the second bonfire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I always forget that there's a secret wall there. And they taunt you with it. They show you that thing in there through that little crack in the rock.
Yeah, I had that in my notes that they kind of tease you because, I'd played through the game twice and I saw it and I still couldn't remember how to get to it.
Yeah. And even finding Vamos is difficult. Like there's a little bit more above him, but just like getting, when I go down here and try to get to Vamos, like just knowing the exact path to get to him, everything kind of looks samey without being, bland or sewer level or annoyingly so. It's very difficult for me to know which way is what.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to just say that even though I usually hate underground, catacombs type levels, this one's really pretty. I didn't notice the first time I went through because I was kind of playing it the first time and I wasn't well spec'd. And then when I got to the, past New Londo and the Duke's Archives, I hit Lost Izalith, which is, not the most exciting thing for some people. And then by that time I was like, oh, come on. And I kind of rushed through. But looking through this time, there's like a giant waterfall. You can see the sun coming in.
Yeah.
It's really a beautiful place, I think.
It's got a unique color palette. Like it is different looking than other places in this area, at least the parts that are exposed, right?
Yeah, I noticed when you walk in, it kind of puts an Instagram filter over everything.
Yeah,
it's similar to Blighttown.
Yep.
Yeah, that gives you the Instagram filter. You walk in, but that part you're talking about, the waterfall, like that chasm, when you're kind of the thing you're actually doubling back over. So, the catacombs are made up of two, areas on either side of the chasm.
right.
And you're kind of traversing these bridges to get back and forth between them. Is really pretty. Like that looks really cool. And, looking up from there and everything like that, like it looks like a place that would exist. I don't know what it would be, but I'm sure there's like a real life locale that's a reference, like a visual reference for that.
Right.
That has like a similar thing.
Yeah.
The part of this that confuses me the most is when I'm trying to find, like, there's that area where you start falling down through graves, like kind of loose earth on graves.
Yeah.
To get to like the Tranquil Walk of Peace miracle or get to the Seance Ring. Any lore ideas why the Seance Ring is here? Like
it is next to another one of those statues that's holding the baby. So this might have been they probably said like, okay, Gwendolyn, you likely had you need a statue because you're a god, but well, okay, so we're going to put you down here. There's also the whole tangle with Nito's area used to be the Painted World. And then the link between Velka and the Painted World and everything here, and the link between Velka and the Dark Moons. So there's probably something that is in like, that cross pollination.
Like
right?
maybe this is a holdover. Like this used to be a Velka.
Yeah.
So if Nito was in the Painted World, maybe Velka lived down. It probably wouldn't be it wouldn't be necessarily Tomb of the Giants, but Velka could live in like an entirely dark area.
Yeah.
And they just swapped out, crows for skeletons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's entirely possible. I mean, the Centipede Demon was initially on top of the freaking chapel,
Yeah. Yeah. So they move stuff around quite a bit. Yeah. I can't wait to get that art book. I'm going to dig through that thing for fucking clues.
That might be good because the more, when I've been reading more about the catacombs, it seems like it may have been one of the first places they made because it seems like there's so many changes and they're putting things in and out. I don't know.
And maybe the lore, the kind of lore bereftness we're finding from it has to do with them just, but there was stuff written for this area, but they couldn't leave it in because it was incompatible with things they wrote later. So instead of replacing it with new stuff that would fit with the kind of narrative they created, they just kind of deleted it.
Yeah. It's weird like that.
Yeah, definitely could be the case. And Vamos, real quick, since we're there, Vamos is really annoying to me because there's so little to Vamos as well. Like this out of all, he's the least interesting blacksmith. Like he looks really cool. He's got a big beard made out of Cthulhu bones.
Yeah, he talks like he was recorded onto a talk boy.
Be gone with you. You'll spoil my focus.
Like the audio compression is really bad for some reason. I'm sure it was done like for effect, kind of like with Sigmire and his but yeah, it sounds like they sampled him at about 32 kbps. Yeah,
but he does have it. He does have a bones for a beard though.
Yeah, this is true.
I know I just already said that, but I need to bring that up again because to me that implies that your beard follicles have bones in them, which is scary. Like the idea of him just like because when he had flesh, those would have been like really long, multi-jointed fingers. Like, come on, guys, let's get scared about this.
Let's develop this technology.
Yeah, I don't need beard fingers. I need to not have beard fingers. We need technology to go back in time and kill whoever invents this because it's spooky. But there's another. I combed his dialogue today too. I'm like, okay, well, he's never said anything interesting to me. Maybe I'll just go look at every possible thing he can say. And nope,
Yeah.
like there's nothing to it.
Nope. Every time you try and engage him in conversation, it says, "Bah, I'm a smith."
Yeah, who's he smithing for?
Yeah.
Like it's not me. Like I'm your only customer. Treat me better.
I'm bringing you embers.
I'm bringing you your only business. Like,
Yeah.
you know. And then the Gravelord Covenant. It's the other big thing on this area on the way.
Wait, possible connection. So Vamos could be the brother to the giant blacksmith or Andre. Maybe not Andre. And they buried him, and he wouldn't stay dead. So when he woke up, he took up what he did in life.
Oh, yeah.
Boom. Okay, moving on. Gravelords.
Okay. The real way we need to tie down does the giant blacksmith have a beard? I'm trying to remember. I don't think so. I think he's got stuff.
No.
Yeah.
He's just got a mask on or something.
Yeah.
I don't think
Under
you can
that,
see
there's
it.
got to be bone fingers.
He's got a gimp mask.
Yeah. Yeah. If he has a skeletal beard, then we'll know.
Yeah.
But so the Gravelord Covenant, which is one of the coolest ideas in the game that is so, poorly implemented.
Right.
Like, the Gravelords are really cool. And this is the last Covenant we're covering, right?
I think so. It's the last of the ones that are worth it. We never really talked about Way of Light or the Princess Guard, but
Yeah, I think we mentioned them though.
we mentioned them. Yeah.
This one has it's one of those neat concepts where I wish they would have had a little bit more time to implement it.
Yeah.
And it does work in New Game Plus, but you're just unless you're doing that, you're never going to see it.
Yeah, and you don't really get to reap the rewards other than to know that by dropping a Gravelord sign, you have made somebody else's life marginally more difficult.
And you get to fight them not marginally more difficult. Like those things,
They fucking suck. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching there's a guy who's doing a playthrough of doing the entire game Gravelorded, and he's he just got to the DLC. I've been watching, and some of that shit is really really tough. Like some areas it barely makes a difference. Some areas it's really really hard.
I've heard it's real rough in the Abyss, the chasm of the Abyss rather.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten there yet, but I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And then you get to fight them. They will invade you. But when you put down your Gravelord sign, you actually infect 3 other players.
Right.
So they can all 3 of them invade you, and you have to have 3 people invading your world to get revenge.
Ah, nice.
Really cool concept. You also get some really cool miracles and equipment.
Yeah. I think that equipment looks really good. It kind of turns into Doctor Doom. Yeah.
Yep. What do you get other than the sword?
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of the Dark Wraiths. I apologize.
The Skeletor.
Yeah, yeah. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Movie Skeletor too. But because you just get the sword, which looks pretty cool, but also inflicts toxic damage, which is really good if you're fighting Stray Demon or Orange Sand Smo.
Yeah.
And looks really cool, and you can get it really early in the game, like in the speedrunning thing, which will come out in the future.
Yes.
Don't cut that. That's a tantalizing hint.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yeah. You should be. It turned out really well. But it's one of the bases of a speedrun because this weapon is really powerful and you get it really early.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I would like to see them take that now that they're doing. I believe that they're going back to hosted PvP in Dark Souls 2. I would like to see them take that technology and actually implement this in a way that really really works.
Yeah, it's a really exciting kind of thing because you have the potential to impact somebody's world very heavily. It's almost like I don't want to get too far into the Demon Souls, but like Black World tendency.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot like that.
It's just instantly making somebody's life a living hell, even though they don't deserve it necessarily.
Yeah. But just like that kind of passive, asynchronous multiplayer kind of stuff is something that we really like about this game, or I really like.
Yeah.
And like that is one of the cooler ways that they put it together. and it actually doesn't come together. It falls apart.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so passive works so well thematically with Nito, who is by far the most passive of the lords.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's the most passive, but he is very passive.
The pygmy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The pygmy's more of a plotter. Either that.
Yeah,
or
the pygmy does some stuff.
Yeah.
He just doesn't do it until the DLC.
Right.
Yeah.
But that is. You mentioned that this was the last one. I know why I didn't say yes right away. Because of the dragon, the way of the dragon.
Oh right.
Oh yeah. Yep. You're right. Yep. We will talk about the Dragon Bros.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's real cool, and the way you get in here just by like nestling in that coffin.
Yeah.
I like that, and it uses
Super
the verb
creepy.
nestle, which I really like. And that's the only description for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like when you get in there, the animation's really funny.
Yeah.
There's a unique death animation if you stab somebody in the casket. That there's a unique animation, and then there's one island in Blighttown that is coded to have that. So if you do a backstab in that area, the person instantly lays down. It's the island where Quailana is.
Oh, really?
So if you backstab someone there, they lay down for a moment in the air, and you stab them in the chest.
Really?
Yep.
Oh man, Bark Souls, prepare to lie down.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go, Tyler.
It's a callback.
Yeah. But then you get down and you can. So we're getting to the run up to Pinwheel in this area, and you can summon Paladin Leroy here if you come in through a certain way. From above, you can get a summon sign, which is like you have to go human through this area that's pretty PvP heavy because of all the trickery you can do.
Right.
And you don't really need Leroy. But let's talk about bone wheel skeletons.
Fuck. So we mentioned it a little bit before, like in the Painted World episode. And I people disagree with me that when I say they're harder in the open than in tight quarters. Unfortunately, this is all in the open. Relative.
I still find them easier, here than I do in the tight quarters. The reason why I find them hard here though is that it seems like their aggro radius is huge.
Yeah.
Like it's really it's really hard to pull one of them. Like as soon as I poke my head out of this area, there's a couple there's like 2 or 3 of them walking towards me. Mm-hmm. And having 2 or 3 of them, come towards you at once and actually roll at you is a real nightmare.
Yeah. They were more of a nightmare before I, really understood the importance of upgrading your shield, and kind of like how important stability is to them not just chewing through your stamina,
Yeah. That and getting good at dodging.
Yeah.
Like, it were the kind of 2 things that I used.
Fucking nightmare because I'm shieldless this time.
Yeah.
That's because I always play, like, I think all 3 times I've played, I'm low poise, pretty low stability shield, so I have to get good at dodging them, but they track you just slightly. So you think you got out of the way, and then they'll catch your elbow, and then you're done. If it touches you, you're done.
Right. They get you in this combo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll stun lock you, kind of, until you're dead or your endurance is dead, and then you die. So like getting hit by one of these guys is pretty much bad news unless you do have like a real heavy duty shield. The one thing that happens here a lot is I'll try to bait them back into that room that's the entrance to this, and they'll fall through the geometry.
That happened to me this time, actually.
Yeah, that happens to me most of the time. Like I'll bait them back, and they just fall through the floor. Yeah. And that's an easy way to deal with them. And just like these things no longer exist in our world.
Send them to the abyss.
Yep.
Or to hell, either way.
And then you get to Pinwheel.
Yep.
Weakness attacking.
Weakness damage. There was just silence after you said Pinwheel. We're like, well.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about the good things about Pinwheel. Mm-hmm. Right? So, I think that this area, Catacombs and Tomb of the Giants, have the 2 best ending like set pieces. Mm-hmm. Like the end of Tomb of the Giants, when you're getting ready to fight that area, and this area here, like, are the if not the 2, in the like the top 5 coolest looking areas in the game.
Right.
Yeah,
like,
it's
this is
really
an awesome
cool.
arena.
Yeah, I was scared the first time I dropped in.
It's spooky.
Yeah. And you think you're going to run into some shit. Like the music is really good.
Yeah.
And doesn't follow. It's like kind of a Demon Souls-y kind of thing because it's not all choral.
Right.
Like it is mostly, kind of orchestral.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say the music, if you get to hear it, I guess you have to go to YouTube. But what I like about it, it kind of has a real creepy kind of like pipe or flute kind of thing in the background. And it's kind of like a real Lovecraft. I don't know, Gary, you listen to the H.P. Lovecraft literary podcast, but they did this theme when they had like they were talking about Nyarlathotep, and then they had this real spooky kind of flute arrangement, and it kind of reminds me of that real like ethereal. It's really scary if you get the chance to hear it.
Yeah, because you'll never hear the end of this song.
Yeah.
You'll never hear more than 10 seconds.
Yeah, sadly,
Yeah.
because it sucks too because it's one of the winners.
It's one of the best, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the cutscene that introduces you to this because you're just kind of walking up behind him, and then he turns around and the heads have like this little gesture conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. God, do I love that when they look at each other like, what should we do?
Yeah.
and then the fight starts. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, God, is it good?
It's frightening.
And, yeah, super creepy. His design is great.
Yeah.
Like the just kind of lantern arms and the way he moves, the way he animates and everything. Like I love everything about Pinwheel except for fighting him.
Yeah. I don't even mind the fight. It's just kind of like underwhelming. It's an anticlimax after all that build up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's too easy.
I'd like to, because I can't remember, somebody in the Something Awful forum posted from the art book, and then they superimposed like 3 people on each other's shoulders. Mm-hmm. And I had never thought about that. And then when I started thinking about it, it was really creepy.
It's like the Little Rascals.
Yeah, like Pinwheel's constantly sneaking into movies. Yeah. Let's present us some ID, Pinwheel. And then the masses just look at each other like,
and then they make like 40 of them and then he goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, then they die from fireballs. Have either of you guys died to him?
Never.
No. Yeah, I've also not died to him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder who are these people hanging up? Like he has hanging skeletons. Has he beaten people? Like I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, they're all merchants. The other awesome, so he has it's all like skeletons. It's like this flooded library, his waterlogged books, and then the table he's working at is really interesting because there's a skeleton with like a blade hand there, which is not an enemy you run into in the game. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna get you're gonna get the point there, or the idea that he's like creating enemies or like creating these kind of skeleton monsters there.
Oh yeah, that he's like a bonesmith.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's some kind of bonesmith. Yeah. Because that's a thing that would occur to somebody because it's yeah, you mean like bonesmith.
Duh, of course, why not?
Yeah. So yeah, again, everything's cool, but there's almost nothing to this guy. Like he creates clones. He's you got it in the notes here. It's definitely true that he's kind of a reference to the Fool's Idol. Yeah. In Demon Souls, even down to like the kind of odd number of arms. Mm-hmm. The way he moves.
Yeah.
He's much easier.
Yeah, the Fool's Idol is a really cool boss fight.
Yeah.
Like, this one, I mean, as far as the fighting part goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I've just never, especially like the first time I went through, I had Quelaag's Fury Sword. He's really weak against fire. And, I did it with my two-hander guy. I just walked up to him and attacked him. Like, there's really nothing he can bring that's going to make this not trivial.
Yeah, great fireball every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he dies. And he drops a mask. I really like these items.
Yeah.
Because they're goofy looking. Yeah. And they're really useful. Like, it just pretty much lets you trade out your helmet slot for a ring.
Right.
Effect. And depending on which one you get, like, they're all useful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of them are pretty good.
Yeah. I like the child because of the regen. I often don't want to equip the Chloranthy ring or the grass crash shield. But so that is nice. Yeah.
The only one I don't use is I'll do the child or the father.
Yeah.
I like those a lot. The mother one I don't use all that often, but it's still useful.
Right. And then you can make a giant dad listen to the PvP episode.
Yeah. Yep. And I hope, Jeremy, I should check and see if he started that playthrough of the giant family that he was going to do.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that'd be pretty
yeah,
good.
check and see if he's done that.
Mm-hmm.
But before we leave the catacombs, do we have any wrap-up thoughts? And then before we enter the deep darkness?
It's just so simple. It's
Yeah.
not a bad thing, but it's simple. It's spooky. I like spooky, but
Oh, we forgot. You can pick up. Let me see. I know there's a Black Knight down there. I don't know if he's still in there.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's the halberd one.
it's the axe.
And he is tough. It's really small.
Yeah, and the only like alternate way to go is to drop down into or like if you're trying to like run away from him and get more space, the only bigger arena is the bone wheel place that is right there.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. He will often ambush you. You'll fall on top of him, or he drops down to you if you go in through without going that way.
Right.
So he's kind of there. One thing I said it last episode, so I didn't say it about this area, but I'll say it again real quick. Is I love the lever system in this because it emphasizes that Dark Souls is not a puzzle game. Like there's no like raising and lowering levels of water or anything. It's not a water dungeon from Zelda. Like if you see a lever, just push it. You have to push it. And this way, it's full of levers to open up those doors and everything like that, but they're not trying to trick you.
There's only two of them.
There's 2 bridges and 2 doors.
Oh yeah, I suppose you're right. Yeah.
And what I like,
as soon as you run into them, take them.
and what I like is they frame it so that you can see what it does without a cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So I like that. It makes it feel more like a, I don't know, just a solid scene rather than we're cutting away.
Yeah.
You're usually in control of Demon Souls, which I like, or Dark Souls rather.
Yeah.
Cut that.
It is a continuous experience. Yeah.
And you're right, because in the bridges you can see the bridges, and in the door ones you run into the door that's sealed,
Right.
and then you just kind of get flooded to the. You're right, that's really elegant, because then you get flooded to the switch, and then you see that the door is opened the next time, rather than the game just being showing you what to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guess what? This episode is still brought to you by Audible.com, and for you, our dear listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat. Again, that's audibletrial.com / and then bonfireside chat, and you'll get a free audiobook.
So that's Catacombs. Up next is kind of a more textured, a little bit more, let's say,
Terrifying?
Terrifying. Yes, terrifying is apt. Although subsequent playthroughs, it really takes a little bit of that away for me, honestly. But we'll get into reasons why. The Tomb of the Giants, which
I was going to say, how can you tell it's textured?
yeah. I was trying to work in like shadow, contrast, light and dark, mostly dark. I'm full of these kind of like these half things. Yeah, but the Tomb of the Giants, which is kind of the last end game area that we're going to talk about. I wouldn't even consider the Catacombs to be like the end game area. This is the real meat of this experience. Yeah.
Catacombs is an area that an alternate beginning area that just happens to be on a linear path to this.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So it's weird because like the tomb is almost entirely lore bereft in terms of like things that you can find there, people. Not really too much happening. Like the cool thing is the way that it looks, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it is pitch dark. Even if you do have the sunlight maggot or the cast light spell or the skull lantern, which is the worst option, you can kind of see like what this is, and this is just like a catacomb for giants that is hewn out of the rock, and all like most of the scenery, furniture, corridors are these gigantic casket parts, right? It's especially cool because like parts of it overlook Lost Izalith and the arch trees, so this is like cutting deep into the core of the earth. You get the sense that you are below the below.
Yep. Which makes sense for this is where Nito would live.
Yeah.
I like this thesis that you came up with. That's good. That's clever.
So I'll go ahead and say it. What you can't see can hurt you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. It's one of those things too where this is similar to Catacombs, where I think they set up like a gameplay based on a restriction, right? So like Catacombs is supposed to have these regenerating enemies. This is supposed to take away. I think that the idea is that you're supposed to go through this with the lantern.
Right.
They give you the lantern fairly early on, and the idea was okay, hotshot, go through this area without your shield.
Right.
But again, very few people do that.
Yeah.
Like most people will go get the sunlight maggot, including us, and we structure our playthrough around doing that.
Yeah.
But I think that it's one of those things where I think that the kind of the workarounds for these two areas to kind of get past their central gameplay mechanic were not necessarily meant to be as widespread as they are.
Yeah, and that's just because of the wiki and because of message boards and stuff.
Yeah, it just kind of spreads. Like, it would have been really cool to find the sunlight maggot for the first time and be like, shit, I know where I can use this.
Yeah. 12 hours ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and what I hate about it is you spent the whole game, kiting things out, and this area makes it impossible because it's so dark. You can't kite anything out, and before you know it, you're in the shit.
Yeah, but you're constantly moving forward without, being able to get a real clear sense of what's ahead of you. And all you can see, if you can see anything, are just glowing eyes.
Yeah.
But the draw distance for those is not very far either.
Right.
And that's more to intimidate you than anything. So yeah, the idea of kind of drawing people, and there's no safe area. So like when you're drawing people out, using a bow or anything like that, you're trying to draw them to your favorable ground. There's really no good area to fight here. Like everywhere is a precipice. Everywhere is just a couple steps away from falling to your death.
Yeah.
So even if you could pull them back, like you're really not, the only advantage there is fighting one at a time, not fighting them in an advantageous arena.
Yeah, that's pretty miserable.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like it's until you know it, and like what you said, when that effect is kind of lessened. Like again, this is one of those areas I can get through in 90 seconds. Like I can just kind of sprint through this.
Yeah.
Once you know it.
Very, very, very little penalty to just running, as long as you know where you're running to. Because if you just absentmindedly work your way into a corner, you're done. Because these enemies in here, they hit like trucks.
Yeah, well, especially those dogs.
Fuck yeah.
Those dogs fucking suck, man.
Yeah.
Those things are tough.
I've never found a way to handle those. Aside from the obvious, which is get your shield and then just try and manage your distance.
With my two-hander, I can do R2 leaping attack and one-shot them.
Wow.
So
I have a plus 14 Spy, and I've not been able to one-shot them yet.
We got to get with this plus 5 Divine Great Club.
I had just a plus 15. Was it katana? So you can imagine that.
Yeah, that's not going to do it. And they're not, everything, fighting with a dex weapon, every advantage you have is kind of ameliorated here because you can't, scoot around these guys. Like you don't have the environment to use. And dodging can be dangerous.
Yeah, their attack sweep is really big.
Yeah. Yep. I just played through this before this for the Let's Play. I'm really happy because I managed to go down here and get the grant, which was kind of the point of that build was to use the grant, and that's also one-shotting these guys, which I'm really happy about. But yeah, if you don't have and I think divine weapons do extra damage to any of these undead things, so that's probably why it's working out.
Yeah.
And also, are you doing the leaping attack on him, Cole?
Leaping attack, like
the forward R2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because that's the other thing that is what I've been using for them, because you can hit them from before they aggro. Like their aggro distance is really short.
Yeah.
So there's only one or two of them you have to fight. You can sneak around the other ones.
Yeah, and pyromancy seems to be really effective on them as well.
So. But if you don't kill them with the first one, when you're doing the wind up for the second one, they'll get you.
Well, yeah.
So that, yeah.
Time makes fools of us all.
Tis true.
Yeah.
So you run into an NPC encounter here. This is where most people will probably run into patches for the first time.
Yeah, trusty Patches, and he asks you if you're a cleric, which is funny because he sells cleric gear, probably from all the clerics he killed.
That's definitely what it is. Like he says as much.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah, he are you a cleric or something? Like he asks you, and you want to say no, because otherwise he'll be aggressive when you get back up there. But either way, right now, if you say yes or no, he tells you there's some treasures down in the basement. They'll shimmer you blind, and he kicks you off into this pit.
Yeah. And then you're down there, and you're immediately dropped off next to 3 bodies that have that have soul items. So you have to go down there and pick up his harvest.
Well, one of them has the lantern.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's kind of an important piece. So if you went down here in the dark without a light source, he kind of gives you one.
Yeah, I always end up getting a lantern off of the last necromancer. So I've never particularly noticed it happening here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think there's the way that I end up going through the catacombs, I think I miss one necromancer, and the way that they're coded is that the last one will give you the drop guaranteed.
Okay.
But there's one of them I don't end up fighting.
Yeah.
Just in my, curly queue through the catacombs.
Yeah.
But yeah, you run into Rhea down here, which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is where her, last time we left her, we said she was heading down to the catacombs. And now she's been, Petrus has abandoned her. We know he went down here with her and says that she's lost. He doesn't know where she's at. He knows exactly where she's at.
Yeah.
She's down here, and her two, Vince and Nico, they went hollow.
Hey!
Hey, we went hollow for some pizza pie.
Who's the guy got to invade to get some vino around these parts, huh?
Hey!
I will look forward to the letter from the Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah, Italian Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah, those guys.
This really burns my cannoli.
Something cement shoes.
They're always jerks to me because do they change the reaction to you if you're wearing better armor?
I think it's if you're hollow or not.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, because I was like, hey, back up.
Guys.
Guys,
where can I get a New York slice around Mordrin? Yeah, but they try to kill you. Like most people, you run into the Bronx. Like you run into somebody in the Bronx, like 2 guys named Vico and Nintz. Vico and Nintz. Vince and Nico. It's dark and it's in Brooklyn. And they're talking like that.
Yeah,
they might also try to kill you. And this is they're tough NPCs. Like I went down with this character and sequence broke, so like I went down here with the lantern and killed them with a mace.
Yeah.
So no shielding them, and it's fucking tough.
Right.
Like they heal, they do Wrath of God. This is a really, really, really tough fight, and it took me 10 tries or something like that.
Wow.
To do it.
Yeah. It is tough. The arena is actually pretty nice because it does give you a way to get away from them. You kind of have these pillars, popping around. You just have to hope that you don't end up with the bone towers.
Oh yeah, those are the way out and the little ramp up.
Yeah.
That treasure will run you into bone towers.
Yeah, but
Castlevania enemy, like on loan from the Castlevania collection.
Yeah, but you end up fighting them. They have complementary skill sets too, or at least loadouts. So it is a tough fight. It's kind of like going up against the forest protectors a little bit. Except you're pretty much just forced to fight them as opposed to being encouraged to get away from them as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And it makes Rhea, that her whole thing a little bit more tragic in that, like, these were her 2 companions. She's down here, and they went crazy and are just, like, waiting in the dark for her to do something, and she's just fucking trapped. Like, it's real horror movie stuff.
She says they're looking for her, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's, like, baffled as to how, like these 2 solid bros, my family, how could they have gone hollow so easily, right?
Yeah.
So who knows if they were complicit, like if they were there to make sure that she, went down there and died,
Yeah, maybe.
She doesn't know who to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you kill them for her, like you're doing her an immense solid, and she goes back and becomes a merchant for you. She goes to the and you can talk to Petrus, and Petrus is like, "Oh, you found her. That's great." You know, like
Give me her exact whereabouts and a list of her fears.
Yeah. And she prays at the parish,
right,
and becomes the best miracle merchant in the game, selling you all the big money miracles. If you
big money miracle,
the new ICP movie.
Thank you. Yep, you beat me to it. Can I?
Yes.
Okay.
So and then you can kind of get the sense that Petrus means her ill will. And he, even if you talk to Lautrec and then talk to him, he'll even say things like, you know, her name won't save her now. You know, she's not worth her salt. And you have to kill Petrus, or Petrus will go murder her.
Right.
Then she'll sell you miracles, and she gets really focused on that. A couple of things she says is that
Vince and Nico were fooled by a lout named Patches and turned into hollows. My prayers did them no good. It is my ignorance, my frailty that has sealed their fates. Perhaps Petrus realized my weakness all along, and thus made the decision to abandon me. I can hardly blame him now.
And she's really, like, tons of guilt complex. Like, her dialogue when she dies, like, says something like, if you attack her down here, she says, like, maybe this was all my fault, or maybe I was too weak. If you, you know, when you talk to her about her being abandoned, she said maybe Petrus noticed my weakness, or could sense my weakness and abandoned me to Patches. It was all Patches, but Petrus did it through inaction.
Right.
So you have to kill, so he must die. And that's one of the best people I feel about killing, you know, in this game. But he feels so good killing Petrus.
Petrus, yeah.
Yeah, like, what an asshole.
Yeah.
But if you buy all of her miracles, she goes hollow and ends up in the Duke's archives. Because that was the last thing she had left. Like, she failed her mission. Her friends turned against her. You know, like, she's just like a victim.
Yeah.
In this.
Do you get the sense that she went hollow of her own volition, quote unquote? Because everything that I've read and what makes sense to me is that Channeler nabbed her because of it being, you know, she's a maiden, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that she ends up in Seath's archives.
Yeah.
It's definitely a channeler who nabbed her at that point, and maybe she went hollow from it being in the cell. There, she doesn't get nabbed until she sells you all the miracles.
Yeah. Oh, the way that you said it made it sound like she went hollow immediately upon selling you all of her stuff. So I just wanted to make sure.
Not the case. You're right. Yeah. I forgot to mention that she gets kidnapped and relocated first. She even says, like, she's like, you know, says, if I ever go hollow, be sure to kill me. A super sad character.
Yeah.
Like,
definitely one of the most tragic. I mean, like, for sheer just like, oh man, like, the world is awful. Like Sieglind in Sigmire, but this one for sure is it's more tragic in a traditional sense.
Sigmire is inviting some of this on himself.
Yeah.
You know, by way of adventure, whereas Rhea, like, you know, she's this lady of high birth. Like, you can really easily buy the fact that she would not be doing this on her own. Like, if it wasn't, like, at her most culpable, misguided faith. Yeah. And at her least culpable, like, being forced to by the church. You know, knowing full well, like, sending agents to ensure she doesn't come back. Right. You know? Like, I wish there was a little bit more about the Way of White. Yeah. In the game, because it's really interesting. Like, it is a very interesting kind of organization. I mean, I just get the sense that they are carrying out Gwyn's will in order to just kind of, like, make sure, you know, like, to maintain the status quo, right? Like that, and it is more sinister and far-reaching than you would imagine, right? Yeah. Or than you initially see, because they have all but abandoned, you know, they've all but abandoned Lordran, right? Yeah. Which makes sense. Like, I mean, who, you know, like, what religion is going to survive in the face of what's going on here, you know? Right. Without becoming corrupt and awful. Yeah. But, so yeah, you get back up to Patches, and he, like, his excuse is that he just gets these urges, gets these, things that you just can't, help but do. And, you know, whether or not you choose to believe it.
I get the sense that he's probably the most legit insane person here, but simply because he does all this crazy stuff, but it doesn't make him lose hope and go hollow. Like there's something missing in him that doesn't drive him over the edge, even though he is undead, right?
He's a sociopath.
Yeah.
I think he must be like a Time Lord or a Dimension Hopper with everywhere he's, because, he's in Demon Souls, but I think he's a legacy from Kingsfield maybe too. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I know he's some sort of From kind of
mascot.
The From company, like he's a through line through a lot of their games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I can definitely see that. It's a good. I've never tried to justify why he's in here and in Demon Souls. Like I don't necessarily think there's one of the like slightly not as popular as EMB or Vatavidya, YouTube, Dark Souls games lore people. Whose name is escaping me right now, who that's kind of the thrust of his thing is that Dark Souls is a prequel to Demon Souls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's his argument. And like there's some elements of it that are stronger than others, but there's a lot of just kind of, filling in the Dino DNA, so to speak. So I don't know if I buy it. And it wouldn't necessarily explain patches though, because it hasn't aged a day.
Right.
So I don't know why he's there. He is really like, he knows what's up. Mm-hmm. Like when you talk to him about the other NPCs when he goes back to Firelink, like he's kind of got like a real, in that way that only like insane sociopaths have, like kind of like a no bullshit way of looking at things.
Right.
Like he'll warn you about Lautrec, like he will, or he doesn't know Lautrec doesn't like him.
Right.
No, he talks about Lautrec as well though. He doesn't like Lautrec. He talks about one of the things he says that's really interesting when he gets back is he says, "How many of you are there?" Like, oh, here you are. How many of you are there? Which is like either a reference to other people who are the player, or you dying multiple times, or just like these kind of clueless heroes running around the world trying to do that. He's a really interesting character. Like I like Patches a lot.
Yeah. He seems just perfectly at home there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But, so you kind of move in, and so here's my question to you guys. Is there anything that, like, strikes you as, like, special about this area until you get to the part that opens up to the arch trees? Like, it's just more dark, right?
Yeah, and whoever put down the guidance crystals or the soapstones or whatever, I mean, they have a good heart, but they don't do anything.
They definitely meant well. There's one it's not here in the notes, the large divine ember.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It's one of the hardest things to get in the game. Like I just did that for my playthrough, and that's fucking. It's a repurposed pinwheel, like coffin. So an arena about that size, really similarly shaped, but with chalices on the wall.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting. Chalices and skulls and stuff, but with I think 6 giant skeletons down there. That you can't see them from really where you have to drop down.
Oh, so you can't target them.
Yeah, it's really tricky. What I ended up doing was going over to being above the Divine Ember so they could see me. And then they gathered over me, and I could do a drop attack and kill 4 of them, and then I could just fight the other 2.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so, like, God, From is trying so hard to not make you not use divine or occult weapons.
Yeah.
Like, they put it through so many gates. Like, on that playthrough, I was like, oh, I'll upgrade my thing to occult for a LARF. You need white Titanite chunks to do it, and you can't get white Titanite chunks until you get here.
Right.
Nothing drops them, except in the Tomb of the Giants. It's the one place on Earth that they exist. Although I think you can get one from Snuggly.
Right, which is useless.
But yeah, exactly. Like, well, I could do 1 and get my occult +1, and it would do way less damage than my divine +5. But putting the large ember behind like the biggest gate, like difficulty and it's so hidden as well.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so that's surprising to me.
Yeah, like it's so like why do they hate that upgrade path so much? Like
it's made me think twice about going like a faith strength build because I just don't want to go in there.
Yeah, well, if you do a faith strength, do the most people do the buff, the faith based buff on the sunlight blade, and that's what people do on a faith strength build. Like almost nobody does divine weapons because they're mostly garbage. It just kind of like it lends itself to the weird monolithic nature of this area. Like this is the area where you use divine weapons and upgrade divine weapons, and this is the area where you do these kind of things. It's the only area. But yeah, there's not very much that's noteworthy about this. Like, you just kind of stick to the wall. There's hidden treasure out there. There's like the gold covetous serpent ring, which I've never found in real life. Effigy shield. There's some stuff out there, but like, there's just not much to it because you can't see. Which like I actually like find really creepy and cool. And the first time I went through, it was real like tense grip on my controller, like tiptoeing through it. But after you get through it the first time, like I just kind of run down to the bottom.
Yeah, same here.
On this, I've beaten the game 3 times, and this is still the only place that I really hate playing through.
Yeah.
Is it just because there's not much to it, or is it something where like mechanically it's still kind of a thorn in your side?
Well, I just the way I play, I can't. It almost hurts my feelings to have a slow roll or a medium roll, so I'm like addicted to a low poise, no poise kind of thing. And then when you're fighting the dogs or the giant skeletons, it's tough. And then, I mean, you can run around, but I just always end up running into them, and it's not a fun time.
Yeah, just like too many times dying and too frustrating to redo it.
Yeah, and lore stuff, there's nothing there. The only lore thing I can think of is who the hell dragged all the giants to be buried here? Because they're like in Anne Orlando or whatever.
Yeah.
So who's good?
Yeah, whose terrible job is that? That's what Patches used to do.
Oh yeah, that's where he got his resentment.
Yep.
Yeah. Looking at the notes here, I don't know. You get to that overlook on the arch trees, and that is real pretty. And we said before that Lost Izalith was the lowest point. At this point, are you actually lower than that? No, you couldn't be. You're just on the other side, right?
Yeah, and you're kind of still looking down on it. From above. So like you're still a little bit above that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this was my low point because when I got here, I realized I had forgotten to place the Lord vessel in my playthrough.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's the worst.
Whoa. So
that happens to me really frequently now that I've gone through the game as many times as I have, because it's so perfunctory. Like I just like, oh, this is this little thing I have to check off. Like I'm not really concerned with the plot. Like the first time I played, I was like, oh, cool, Guinevere is telling me to do this thing. I'll go do it.
Yeah.
But in subsequent times, like I've definitely run into, I don't think I've done it here, but I've gone to what am I thinking? The Lost Izalith one, the one in the Demon Ruins, and got all the way down there and run into the orange fog gate in front of the Fire Sage.
Rough.
Yeah. And you can kind of warp, but this one, is there a bonfire you can warp to?
Yes, it's the first bonfire in this area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, so it's not a huge setback, but if you had been fighting tooth and nail to get this far, it would be problematic.
Yep, and that's what happened. It was. I stopped that night.
Doe. This is where Paladin Leroy can show up, right?
Yep.
A Leroy Jenkins reference 6 years too late.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Which we can we all admit here as adults that like as something can be played out and still pretty funny. Like that Leroy Jenkins video. The first time I saw that, I got a chuckle out of it. Like it's pretty dumb.
Yeah,
but I thought it was funny. It just became a meme and then got ruined. But
yeah, it had its time and place.
Yeah. It was like 2007.
Yeah.
Several years before this game came out.
Yeah. It's just so incongruous with anything else in the game, really.
Yeah.
It feels like something Blizzard would do in one of their games.
Constantly. And they would just construct their games out of little pieces of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he drops the Grant. So I love him, and he drops the Sanctus, which is a really cool looking shield that you don't really want to use that much. But
I like his armor too. For like the way that it looks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And and getting his armor is kind of tricky because you have to kill him as an invader, and then it shows up in Nito's area, but only after you reset.
Right.
So or warp there and back. So you go through after you fight Leroy Jenkins, which is difficult because of the footing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times since he's two-handing, he doesn't block really.
Right.
So you can kind of wear him down quickly that way.
Yeah.
You go through this kind of hallway of like really narrow hallway with bone towers and giant skeletons.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. And
Yeah.
there's a little ambush at the end. But then leads you into like, again, one of the like best vistas in the game. Kind of like the coolest set pieces.
Yeah, it's the aggro crag, but with pinwheels and baby skeletons.
Isn't the aggro crag the thing you get for winning Nickelodeon's guts?
No, the aggro crag is the final boss of Nickelodeon's guts. You get a piece of the aggro crag for beating Nickelodeon's guts.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, because I was pretty sure that's what you were referencing, but I was like, is that actually a real thing other than just the piece of the crag?
Yeah, it's no. It is what Mike O'Malley forces you to do.
Yeah.
I've Google image searched somebody like trying to sell their piece of the aggro crag, like somebody like because I would buy it. Like, don't you want a piece of the aggro crag?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, a glowing piece of the radical rock.
It's like one of those things. Like I would never think to buy a Medal of Honor.
Yeah, but I'd buy an aggro crag. Did I ever tell you, Cole, or when you were up that I have it? I bought from eBay a while back. I have a medal that they gave to Russian soldiers who went in after Chernobyl. They were all like awarded this like medal.
Really?
The ones that survived because they did a terrible job of prepping them for being in Chernobyl. Mm-hmm. But it's really interesting. Like it's this little medal with this picture of like blood with arrows coming out of it and into it.
Huh.
Which is this weird kind of like I can kind of see it as an abstract image of radiation poisoning. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting.
That sounds awesome.
It's a pretty cool little trinket.
Yeah.
It'll dazzle you blind.
Yeah, well, the only thing I've seen, like, the only trophy I'd get off eBay is there's this Michael Jordan barbecue sauce from like 1992 from McDonald's. I think it sold for like $10,000 or something. But I'm still pissed I lost that one, so I'm airing my grievances here.
You open it up and it's nothing but deadly spores.
Yeah. It's just a big hunk of solid barbecue sauce. You said you lost that one. It makes me like, were you willing to go to like 9,000? And then it just went a bridge too far?
I got nothing. I didn't think far ahead on that goof, Gary.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, I had the barbecue sauce lined up, and then after that, I didn't think you'd call me on it.
Anyway,
barbecue sauce aside, you enter a huge antechamber where hundreds of people have died worshiping this gate. Like stock still as their bodies rotted and their flesh fell off their bodies.
Yeah.
Off their bones.
They're villagers from Black and White.
Are they? I don't know. I don't know Black and White.
It's a good game. Yeah.
Is it? I feel like I've heard different than that, but
I mean it's interesting at the very least. It is a Lionhead game, as you know. But that is a thing. Like, just if you set your villagers to worship, but you don't leave them food, they'll worship until they die.
Oh, until they turn into skeletons?
Yes, until they turn into skeletons.
Huh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Doesn't that just look really impressive to you? Like, doesn't this give you a nice sense of grandeur?
Yeah, yeah.
When you come here, it's like these are these and these people all died worshiping this thing. Like, I love it. And then the skeleton babies, which I love. It's like one of my favorite enemies in the game. Like just the way they're all stumbly wumbly and cute, but like really spooky and everything. Yeah. Like,
is this a Demon Souls reference? I think it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
In 5.2, the toxic babies.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they inflict toxic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Is it toxic or is it bleed?
That's toxic.
I think it's toxic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know because this is a wonderful place to farm for humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
previously the best place to farm until what is it? The DLC.
Right. Yeah.
It's also the best place to farm just for souls because you'll get tons of humanities that you can feed to Frampt for like 2,000 souls each or something like that. and you'll get tons of them. You can end up with 99 of them really fast.
Yeah, especially if you have the covetous silver. And you're going to have plenty of humanity, so that's not a problem.
They spawn unlimitedly, which is
Yes.
one of the few enemies in the game that continuously spawn. I love how they just kind of come, like they sense when you're in that lake. Like you're in the water, and then I've run through the water looking for things, and you just leave this wake of baby skeletons like nipping at your heels. Like so cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they're there. Is it just that they just were sacrifices or something? It just, I don't know. It's so sad.
Like why they're the only animate skeletons here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But you have various mini pinwheels here who, like, in conjunction with as many of them there in this terrain, actually ends up being kind of hard for me.
Yeah.
Just because their magic attacks kick like a mule if they catch you off guard, and this is kind of designed in such a way that you always have your back to at least one of them.
Yeah, and there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
You know? A weird thing, I don't know if this is just me and my bad die rolls, but it seems like they can drop masks, but they only drop the mask that the first pinwheel dropped.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if that's true, but like I've gone down here and tried to farm them a little bit to get the other mask, and I kept getting the first mask I got.
Oh, yeah. You can just buy them from patches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think at that time when I tried to do this, I realized what triggered patches.
Oh,
to go
yeah,
to
yeah.
Firelink.
Yeah,
So.
It's beating Nito.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or Beto.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool / interesting that the entrance to Nito's chamber is like overgrown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that says. Like, you know, just like, you know, the pinwheels don't care. Pinwheel don't care. Or if it was just or if it was just kind of like, yeah, you know.
I think it's how inactive he is.
Yeah.
Like he went back here to sleep after the events of the prologue, and then just hasn't really left since then.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you fight Nito.
It's a good fight. I like this fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's super scary because he has a sword that phases through the ground, and you have to listen for the screams of 1,000 women to know when to roll.
It's so tricky because like the last couple of times I've fought him, it's been on camera or it's been on like Let's Plays, and I can't hear it very well when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
It makes this fight really hard.
Yeah.
And it's a couple seconds after the scream.
Right.
So it's like you hear the scream, and then you kind of have to wait like 2 potato, 3 potato, and then you roll, and you'll get out of the way.
Yeah, and you can get real overeager.
Yeah, but you can't just roll like crazy. That will not work. It does a lot of toxic damage to you.
Yeah.
Like fills up your toxic meter like crazy. The other thing is here is that he's got tons of like skeletons around him, and he acts as the necromancer for them.
Right.
So unless you're using a divine weapon, they will get up during the fight.
Yeah, and if you venture too far to the north of the chamber, there are giant skeletons who will make your life.
Yeah. Yep. Fighting Nito plus those giant skeletons would be not something I'd want to do. And luckily, I've never really done it. If the times I've fought him with any kind of poise, like any kind of like heavy armor character, it's really easy to tank him and then wait for him to do his area effect to knock down the skeletons. And then they don't die, but then you just kind of keep hitting him. You know, like, and you don't die either. And it kind of becomes like similar to the Four Kings, like just kind of a DPS race.
Oh, yeah.
And you can kind of take him on that way as well. When you actually get to fight him, his attacks are really limited. Like his sword swings are really slow. He does this grab attack, which I only saw the last time I played, which is really creepy because he kind of puts down a glowing fist, and then just kind of like it stretches out towards you, and he kind of scoots towards you.
Yeah.
It's real spooky looking. And, you know, just a moment of appreciation for Nito's design.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I love
like
it.
This. Yeah, I love how Nito looks. Like just this kind of like just pile of skeletons kind of cobbled together.
His sword is also made of skeletons.
Yeah, he's so economical. Like he uses every part of the skeleton.
I use every part of the skeleton.
There's only one
We all
skeleton
do.
I use every part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, he uses every part of every skeleton.
Well, there's only one skeleton I can be sure exists.
That's true.
Yeah. What was it you were trying to say, Will? Before I said something stupid.
Out of all the, after re-listening, the music for Nito is my favorite track in the whole game.
Oh yeah.
For me. It's kind of got a real old kind of 70s horror from like Italy kind of feel. And it was just, I don't know if you've heard it, but going back and listening to it when I'm not trying to, get away from the skeletons because I don't have a divine weapon is really cool. It's my favorite one in the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to give that a re-listen. Like, I always cut in the music, for it. So everyone who's listening will have heard it, and I'll hear it again when I do the edit.
Yeah.
I feel like I've definitely noticed it as being a more of like an atmospheric thing, but I'm so busy at the beginning. I haven't gone back and listened to it without, like you said, like without dodging for my life.
Yeah.
I'm usually like very distracted.
Yeah. You definitely go into this like with like a disadvantage, so you're distracted.
And not least was because you take damage, like you fall down, and he usually does that sword stab immediately too. Like you definitely are kind of the card stacked against you. So
yeah, but the arena is awesome as well because you have like these gigantic sarcophagi propped up against the wall.
Yeah, and I don't know if we said it kind of weirdly when we talked about the Gravelords, but this is where you go to join the Gravelord Covenant. Like you actually teleport here, and Nito is your Covenant leader.
Yeah,
which is really weird. Yeah, and
what's the difference?
Yeah, it's really strange. Like killing him does not kick you out of the Covenant. It does mean you can't advance in ranks anymore.
Right.
But you still get to stay in the Covenant. But they kind of use the area twice for that, which. Again, who knows what they were planning for Nito initially.
And you can he only goes after people in New Game Plus because they're guaranteed to have already killed him.
It may be.
No, that is the dumbest thing I've ever said.
That's not this is way dumber thing.
Okay, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, that is not the dumbest thing you've ever said. That would make sense. I mean, there are a lot of mechanical reasons why it only works for New Game Plus.
Oh yeah,
but that could make a sense. But yeah, all in all, like not that hard, but a pretty fun fight.
Yeah.
I feel like it's how hard it's going to be is real luck based for me. Like depending on how much he spams his area effect or spams that sword smash.
Right.
But it's a good fight for somebody who
It's like a 2 or 3 trier for me, honestly. Yeah, which is good. That is good. Yeah.
And that's Nito, and that's the Catacombs and the Tomb of the Giants.
Yeah.
Do we have any wrap-up thoughts on Tomb of the Giants?
I had a thought about Nito, because somebody said, we didn't talk about too much lore. He's a passive god, but I think, I don't remember, somebody on Something Awful said something about him being, he can't stand immortals because he's the god of death. So maybe he had helped out in the war against the dragons, because if there's no immortals, there's more death to add to his empire. I thought that's an interesting point because that's
definitely an interesting point
before.
Yeah. And that totally makes sense
because he's the god of death. Why should he give a shit about anything?
Yeah,
because everything's gonna die except those dragons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one specific one. That's really interesting. I hadn't necessarily considered that.
Yeah.
I like the way, and we haven't like with the people in the cutscene in the beginning, the way that they all. The way they all took out the dragons, all kind of played their part. And like Nito releasing his waves of miasma and death, kind of weakening them, and the Witch of Isil burning down their trees.
Yeah,
everything, like everyone kind of played their part, which I really like.
It's like the Avengers.
Yeah, they're like the FromSoft Avengers.
Yeah,
alternate name for this podcast.
Yeah,
if we ever.
It's one of those things. He's the only lord who is like a force of nature, right?
Yeah.
Like the other lords are excepting Nito. Okay, so the two lords that. Wait a minute, this is falling apart rapidly. But
it has to be Earbull.
It has to be Earbull. Thank you. He gets it. No, derailed. No, but just kind of like these people got their powers from the Lord Soul because they just went to the first flame and they found it there. They are regular creatures that just happen upon this otherworldly supernatural kind of thing. Whereas kind of like Nito is just introduced as the Lord of the Dead.
Yeah, the first of the dead.
Yeah, the first of the dead rather. And so like all that I can think of is when the first flame was lit. Right, and then it introduced disparity. Right, there was no death, before the first flame was lit, and then boom, light, the sun, then dark, death. Like he was created, so
just sprung into being.
Yeah.
As such, yeah, for sure. Like,
he could be passive because he's just aloof,
Yeah, like the same way that like, gravity is passive.
Right.
When you said that he was the only one to represent something, quickly in my mind, I started thinking of like what the other ones could all represent.
Well, I mean, it's the old what I say about those different areas. The Duke's Archive and Seath being order, chaos. Like the Witch of Izalith. That being chaos. Just like each of those kind of different elemental things.
I was thinking
the
of
abyss with void, nothingness.
I was trying to just assign them, and I ended up having the Witch of Izalith as life as opposed to to chaos. Mm-hmm. Just setting it up with a dichotomy with this.
Mm-hmm. With the Witch of Chaos also being like a representative or the embodiment or conduit for the flame, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but much ado about Nito.
Yeah, much ado about Nito. I would watch that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what she said about the. Dun, 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 dun.
Gary, tell us what we're going to do next time.
Next time, we that broken pendant that we picked up in the Duke's Archive. That seems like a cool idea. So we're going to go around to random areas in Lordon and see if it happens to do anything. We might get sucked into an ancient time in order to rescue a princess from the Mushroom Kingdom, as Brayden pointed out.
Yes.
And that can only mean one thing. We're doing the entirety of the Artorias of the Abyss expansion. Mm-hmm. So watch out for long episodes.
Yeah.
Because that is probably 1.5 episodes worth of content.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4 bosses. Two very large areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is what we are doing.
Mm-hmm. Who's going to join us for that?
We're going to be joined by John Wolfe,
okay.
A buddy of mine, not a current internet presence, but he's been on some of my old podcasts, been on some DinoCast, and he's the voice of one of the imaginative teens from the Dungeon Mister sketches from Idea Valhalla. And Dark Souls superfan who, like you and like some other people, were trying to get me into it, for years until I eventually got into it. So
a year for a
year
and 2 months.
A year. I measure time without Dark Souls each year is 10 years.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah.
Huh. So what?
Yeah. So
that was
admin stuff.
Yeah.
Will, do you want to? Where can people find you on the web?
Oh, you can check out my blog www.backlogkiller.com. Just me trying to finish the stuff I haven't written for a while because I'm on vacation. But I'll be playing Bastion when I get back, so I'm looking forward to that because everybody says it's great.
It is.
So I hope so.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I played... Oh, geez. What did I play?
Ultima Underworld.
Oh, yeah. That one was pretty good, but there's not too much I could tie in with, my emotions or anything like that. So it ended up being just kind of like I did this and I did that. So I had fun playing, but I don't think it was too fun to read. So hopefully Bastion will be a bit more of that because I enjoy those very much.
Yeah.
I think it will be.
Yeah, it will.
Based on my experience with it. Mm-hmm. So definitely look forward to that. On this show and finding Gary and Kole on the internet, a quick reminder that we're rapidly approaching the Demon Souls season of Bonfireside Chat. Mm-hmm. So just so you know, we've just got a couple more episodes of this podcast, and then we will be heading into Boletaria. and spending about 6 months there. So, you know, I'm not going to suggest anybody do it. I bought a PS3 to play it. You know, that's a big investment, but it's been worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can do the usual stuff like ratings, reviews on iTunes, you know, the Amazon referral link, Audible link, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And if there is anybody who, you know, just cross thanks and promotions, since this is the first episode after the Kickstarter will have closed, if there is anybody who listens to this that donated to that, who backed us there, we really appreciate it. And you are all heroes that made an awesome thing happen. So
yeah, thank you very much. And that I thought you were going to say something else. I thought you were going to correct me that I forgot something. If you know, and I said this in the last episode, I'm just throwing it out there one more time. Anybody you think, you know, who's like a video game podcaster person, who's real into Demon Souls, like maybe they said, like, I love Demon Souls, and you'd like to hear them on the show, maybe let us know in case they fell through our radar, and we'll reach out to them.
Yeah.
Because we're lining up guests for the second season, and we're probably going to do a mix of, you know, people who we know, like our friends, and then also some people from kind of the larger community as well.
yeah,
But we're putting that together now. So if you have any ideas or suggestions, please lay them on us.
yeah. I think that's just about everything. I can't imagine other than, you know, go get started playing the expansion now, because it is fairly lengthy. Yeah,
it's so good though. It's one of my favorite expansion. Like it's one of my favorite like expansions to a game. Mm-hmm. Like, and it works really well as just kind of self-contained. You know, the lore is really direct, but I really like it.
Yeah.
And all those boss fights, you know, my favorite boss fights in the game, and probably my least favorite, are all within that. So
yeah. So until that, though, what can we do, Gary?
We should praise the sun.
Praise the sun.
Praise the sun.
Praise the sun.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon